What's up, crypto media friends? The role of crypto in the Ukraine-Russia crisis. Is Bitcoin uncensorable money? It's the holy grail, right? It's the end-all be-all of store of value. And nothing can ever change that because it's on the blockchain and all these great things, right? Well, that's all good and fine unless you live in Canada. So I was really surprised by the news of this, but it makes sense. And so I wanted to talk today about where you store your cryptocurrency has implications upon your ability to access it. And certainly we're seeing a lot of challenges within the Ukraine and Russian states, in terms of the run on the money, and the access to their assets are challenged at the moment. And crypto, has always been like this is the store of value of the future, that's immutable, and it's yours, and unless you store it in Canada. No. It's just so funny that Canada is the one that comes across as like the authoritarian state that we all feared. But their crackdown, against in Ottawa against the trucker envoy, was a bit surprising. It wasn't as widespread, I think, as a report would be, but it does show a fundamental control that government has when you do open an account and you bloody hell turn it on. Now it's late when the cleaning people are here. Late at the studio. It's not that late at the studio. But this is what we do here at the Overtime Show. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell notification. We're here in Hollywood, and we try and bring sort of Hollywood into blockchain and look at Web3 and NFTs and the metaverse. But with the world going the way it is, I wanted to quickly talk about security within utilizing the blockchain for the purposes that we all thought we were going to have, which was this place that we could store value outside of government control and influence. But it's pretty clear that they do have control, especially when you're going through the KYC process, which is the know your customer process. When you start your Coinbase account, which just delivered incredible earnings, which again, this is why I don't love the stock market, and I've been out of it for a while because I despise it. Coinbase makes unheard of earnings that were so far above their forecast, and yet the price goes down. And where does all that money go? And so this is why we're all in Web3, aren't we? So anywho, backtracking, we're talking about I don't even know what we're talking about anymore because it's so frustrating to see this type of control. So you do the KYC, but I feel like it when you're going through the know your customer process, when you're opening an account, and whether that's Kraken or any of KuCoin, the great exchanges that we all use that haven't been hacked, in quite a while, and seem like that they're getting their game straight for being sort of the Fort Knoxes that we hope them to be. As holders of our crypto, holders of our NFTs, of all this value that they're holding onto us. And so, being custodians of that has its advantages because, it's very easily accessible, and we can float them back and forth in between our wallets with great ease. And sometimes, to be honest, like having a ledger, which I'll show off a little bit here, is scary to me because, sometimes I'll just, it's a very small device, and so the ability to get it lost or something like that is frightening to me. I have lost money on a phone, actually, on a phone wallet. I lost a lot of Bitcoin because I'm going to do a whole episode on that. I tried to upgrade the iPhone and wasn't able to get my keys. I thought I'd written them down, but I guess I must have placed them in another place. And so without the keys, that's the 24-word phrase, 12-word? 24-word phrase that you have that allows you to access your reserve cryptocurrency. But here in Canada, we have this example of, it's about 12 they're accounts essentially. So I think the interesting part is they track the cryptocurrency in a way that was interesting because they have, a transfer of at least 2.25 million worth of cryptocurrency to multiple donor wallets that served as a funnel to the main protest group address. So they were able to identify there was a funding going on of this group protest. That's interesting on one hand, and I think that that's what's great about blockchain being very transparent. Things got funded in this protest. Who funded it is always interesting to find out and know. But in doing that, they were able to track and see which wallets it was going to. The wallets may not have names attached to them, but FinTrack and other Canadian agencies were able to obtain the account information behind the addresses linked to the exchanges or financial institutions. And that's the thing, is when you're going to the on-ramp, the exchange is the on-ramp so that you can transfer your fiat money, your accounts at Chase Manhattan or JP Morgan Chase now, into the cryptocurrency of your choice. If you leave it lying into that account, it's still being held in custody by that entity, and that entity is subject to interacting with the government, and because it serves the government at those times of if the government calls something illegal in the activity, they have the right to freeze, much like a bank account that we hear all the time. It's like, the drug dealer's bank accounts were frozen, or we're freezing Putin's family's money, in accounts that are in America. So they have the ability, by way of the association that we make and all the paperwork that you have to do, again known as KYC, to open an account. They know it's yours. They know it's part of this, that you're connected to it. And then by way of that, they also kind of know where you're sending things, right? And so they can get it into, they can track your MetaMask. They can track, essentially where the common transactions have been going. And so whether they can control the MetaMask, I think, becomes sort of a question. That perhaps, again, if they're subject to any kind of government regulation, especially when you're doing business within a government, if you're doing business within California, as all Californians know, and sometimes to the chagrin of companies around the world, if you're doing business in California, you're subject to the rules. You're subject to a lot of strict taxation, a lot of things that when you're doing business in a certain area, you're subject to the rules, and therefore that government also has access to enforce those rules in ways that might not be pleasant for the holder. Again, this just being, I don't want to say it was an inconvenience that they were causing. It was of the protest, but certainly by getting on the wrong side of what the government wants and believes is one thing. But also, governments are very sloppy in the way that they enforce and the way that they, regulate. And so when they bring down the hammer, they could smush a lot of other people, a lot of other ants, if you will, that are around and might not have the ability to prove that they're innocent before they slam the guilty hammer on them. And so by taking it off of exchanges, I know people who in my early days of crypto were just like, dude, you got to get the ledger. You got to get ledgers are actually from France. I just got this one from France, and Coinbase had done a special edition. I didn't get the special edition because I didn't feel I needed it, but this gives you essentially the access to it without that intermediary. Certainly you'll have to kind of put this back into the wallet, and what you do is you end up putting and backing up your MetaMask. It's a strategy to the ledger, and so there's many videos about that online. Go check those guys out. There's this one great guy with a mullet who does an amazing job of explaining how to break down your transfer your MetaMask into your ledger. So just kind of as is, and then he gets pretty paranoid, and he actually erases and deletes it off his browser, and he starts a new MetaMask just to kind of create another layer into the keys that you hold, so that the keys are not on the on the computer at all, and so they're just on the ledger, and so that brings a lot of the responsibility of you to keep track of that, but it certainly gives you that security of having your assets when you need them. And so does every place except Bitcoin? No, but more and more places do. I'm not a huge fan of Bitcoin because as a previous miner, I've seen the waste that it has inherent in the system. And EVM, the Ethereum virtual machine, similarly has that. They're trying to transition over to something that's a bit less energy usage. Even Dogecoin, I was surprised when I looked into it. I started thinking about it. I'm like, people mine Dogecoin, and so when you have this, this miner, and just like Bitcoin, this is the great thing about Dogecoin that separates itself from Shiba Inu. Shiba Inu is actually on the Ethereum virtual machine, so it's running on top of a blockchain already, and so, but Dogecoin is its own thing, and it has its own miners. That's very powerful when you have a million of these spread out all over the world. You have your own sort of system, and within that system is the capability to build on top of it. Should you get smart contracts, which a lot of people are working towards on both protocols, but ultimately you have a network that's accessible. So you have that ability with your ledger to. I'm like, this is my new ledger. That'd be a great hide, right? Just like putting it inside one of these. Damn it! Now you guys have caught on to me. But like you take your ledger and having the ability to spend with it. What sort of coins could you use? I think those come to mind as ones that are easily accessible. So by having your keys, you keep hearing that your keys just means that phrase into your ledger off of the grid, if you will, gives you great financial security, a layer of security, we'll say, so that this doesn't happen to you, so that you don't have your assets frozen, as Canada clearly proved that they can do, and that's them on their own people, and it's a thing that is it was surprising. I think for Trudeau, it was so progressive, and but the authoritarian narrative, it can become it comes very quickly in times of fear and uncertainty, and when we have more of that coming, maybe it's a good idea, which is why I got my ledger. I don't have a ton, guys, to be honest. Like, most of it's in NFTs, and I'll go over how to put your NFTs that you love in there. But similarly, through the MetaMask, I wouldn't call it backup, but sort of re-imaging your MetaMask onto the ledger as a way of doing it. And so, without economic freedom, you cannot have political freedom, can you? Economist John H. Cochrane of the Hoover Institution about the fiasco in Canada. If the government can monitor your transactions, freeze your assets, sanction you, or freeze your ability to transact or buy or sell anything, it can quickly silence you, stop your political participation, undermine political movements, or even aspiring individual politicians. It just sucks when the Russians right now can only take out $20 out of their bank accounts at the moment. When governments and sort of the overarching control units, the companies, are unable to deliver, or are afraid that your ability to access the money will give you sort of some sort of freedom or power that they don't want you to have, the ability to get the F out of there, maybe one of them. And so that has serious implications, and I think as we look at this situation, I just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention, and like, subscribe, hit the bell notification. I know this is like a low pro one, that we're not talking about how to 10x anything or anything, but just how to stay safe within these uncertain times, I think, is as important as anything ever say. And so I know that sometimes when I get on these, it's just so funny to me. Like when I'm not talking about things that you can invest in immediately and are going to moon. Sometimes it doesn't get the love, but I think they're important. And for you guys, the audience that I speak to, the creators, just want to make sure that you guys are aware that these events, as we move into Web3, have an impact on us. The world events, the things around the world that we're not going to see on a daily basis, which thoughts and prayers going out to them, because that's there's no bystanders in a war. There's you're in it, and it's hellish, right? So we wish for a speedy resolution there, and I hope you guys take care of each other, and we'll